Thank you. Hi, and welcome to Futurize and to my talk. We are getting a bit less now, but that's okay. That's no problem. It's a bit cozier this way. So my talk is about how can you sell security as a business priority. But I also like to call this talk Security is the New Green. And of course, this is a cutting edge or bleeding edge presentation, and there will be next gen stuff. And one thing that I will promise you is that you will learn the magic trick on how can you sell security as a business priority, but I will also tell you how can you hack stuff. You will actually, on this presentation, you will learn how can you get access to private and confidential information. So you will actually hack stuff. All right, this is the carrot, so don't leave now. And of course, the first question that you might be asking is that, who the hell is this guy? So I'm going to just give a brief presentation about myself. My name is Bruno. I work here at Futurize as a principal architect and technology advisor. I work in different domains. I work in DevOps and cloud, but also security, data engineering, and AI. Security is a very dear topic to me because before I joined Futurize, I worked 6 years in cybersecurity. So it's a very dear and loving topic for me. You can reach me out at any time. Feel free to contact me if you have any comments, suggestions, or any kind of questions. Now, I'm going to start with something a bit different. So before I touch the topic of security, I want to discuss a bit about this type of labels. I want to discuss about green economy. Now, you all saw this type of labels in products, in services, sustainable, carbon neutral, eco-friendly, and in the past 10 years, 5 years, it's becoming so popular that nowadays you cannot live without it, right? Raise your hands if this is something important to you when you are choosing a product. Only so, okay. I thought more of you will be, okay. Like, raise your hands. I didn't saw properly. Everyone, yes, of course. We all care about the planet, right? No pressure, yeah. No, it's actually okay. I think it's normal that some people get this topic more, it's more dear to them, right? Now, one real-world example, it's this. Which toothbrush would you buy? So this is where our green economy comes and our principles come into play, right? So in one hand, we have a Pepsodent professional toothbrush, and the other hand, we have the Humble Brush. Now, the Humble Brush is a toothbrush that the handle is made with bamboo. So it's actually very environmental friendly. So the only plastic is actually on the part that you use to brush, right? And this is like real prices. At least they were like a couple of months ago. So raise your hand if you will buy the Humble Brush. Raise your hand if you will buy the Pepsodent Professional. You'll buy two. Michael will buy two toothbrushes, okay? I actually have the Humble Brush as well, but I also have another one. So it's actually quite common. And this is one of the things that it calls to our attention when we are in the supermarket, right? Like, we like things that are sustainable and we like things that are good for the planet, but the price matters a lot. And one of the things that has been happening in the past 3-5 years is that the price is measuring less and less for the simple reason that no, the people not anyone wants to pay more for a green and sustainable product. We just take that as a granted thing. Nowadays, in the past 3-5 years, consumers demand that the brands are sustainable and are green, and no one likes to even consider that they are not. So we don't expect to pay more, or we might be willing to pay a little bit more, but we expect it to be a baseline condition. And now here's where we take security into play. So now forget the green and sustainable, right? But if you look at security and privacy, it's a whole economy by itself. You have most of these labels or certifications and process, you probably are familiar to you, GDPR, PCI DSS, this ISO 27000. These are compliance programs about security and privacy that are very dear to us, especially in the tech industry. Like especially in the past 5 years, GDPR here in Europe is so big. There's whole companies about teaching you how to be GDPR compliant. So the point here is that this topic has been raising now at a certain bar that companies assume that things are secure by default. Companies and B2B, B2C, everyone expects that security is a baseline condition. Now, if you look at reality of what's been happening in the software development industry, it's been changing quite a lot, right? In the past 15 years, or 15 years ago, to be more exact, computing power was super expensive. We had a bunch of servers in the data center that were very hard and expensive to purchase and to maintain. So computing was so expensive that engineering teams start to optimize computing. So we started to virtualize stuff so that in the hardware server, we could fit small servers. So we started to make the most out of our hardware. Then the bottleneck was, after that, was storage. Storage was the expensive part. Sun storage, NAS. All of that enterprise storage was becoming super expensive. So what happened? Cloud. That's how cloud appeared. Meaning that the cloud didn't start with the compute part. It started with the storage. Storage was expensive. So companies like Dropbox, Box.com, and any other companies, even AWS and Azure and Google Cloud, they focused first on the storage. Because the storage was the basic element. If you had the price per gig cheap enough, then, of course, people could just have this kind of unlimited storage. That's the whole concept of object storage in the cloud. But this is not the technical talk. Yeah, I'm going to move to the other part, which is that today, in the present, humans are expensive. We are expensive for a company. It is, operational costs, developing software, the most expensive element is humans. So what has been happening in the engineering teams? It's been happening that the roles have been consolidating. Working in any kind of consulting, we know that customers are demanding more from our technical people. As examples of that is that before you will expect someone to get a front-end developer and a back-end developer, nowadays the companies expect someone full stack. As an example, there are roles that no longer exist, or there exist very few. Database administrator, network engineer. Those are roles that no longer exist because now companies expect someone to be a DevOps engineer. Roles have been consolidating, and security is no exception here, meaning that companies expect that no longer you have just one person handling security for the entire company, but that the software developers and any kind of engineering teams, they take security as a baseline condition, that they take the security hat as part of quality assurance, or any kind of examples of operational infrastructure. So it's expected from the teams to handle as well properly things like security. Now, how have engineers been selling security so far? When we think about security incidents, we think data breaches, we think things that are misconfigured, we think hackers, of course, and of course, there's someone with a hoodie, except this guy. But we always think about this type of things. Someone that is one person that detects one system, and that's often not the reality. Often the reality is that someone misconfigures something. Someone did a mistake, because we are humans. And that's one of the biggest causes. We also companies expect that by the end of the project, there's a security audit, which is someone that will give them a page, which is like a rubber stamp, like this is okay or not. This is what's been happening in software development the past years. However, things have been changing. And nowadays, in security, there's this called shift left movement, which is that the responsibilities are no longer just in one person, in someone that audits in the end of the pipeline. It's expected that the development teams take also the security in consideration as part of their day-to-day. Now, which of you work in the cybersecurity industry, or your company's cybersecurity? Oh, wow, okay. Which of you work in software development? It can be that you are selling software, that also counts. Okay, good point. Now, which of you face this problem, which is that managing customer expectations? That you go to a customer or you go to someone that's non-technical, and their expectation is that we are 100% secure, right? Bulletproof. And you go like, yeah, sure, yeah, we got you covered. Now, the thing is, how many of you face this? Yeah? Yeah, it's quite common in technology, right? Now, the thing is, there is no 100% security. Like deep down, technical people know that. And most of the people actually also know that there's no 100% security. But I made a small experiment. I Googled 100% security protection. What are cybersecurity vendors saying? It was the first top 10. Now, the first one that struck me as odd was Kaspersky. So they were saying, anti-ransomware tool for business provides 100% security. And this is obviously false because no one can claim this. When you click on that link, you get the 404, not found. So I thought that was also an amusing touch. But most of them, they say nearly 100% security, fair enough. Or they say that we have 100% guarantee. So like if you get hacked, we can cover you a bit. But no one can guarantee 100% security. They can put the number 100%, 100 in percentage, but they cannot guarantee you that. And people don't, of course, understand because we know that if we are paying, for instance, for a cybersecurity product, or if you are paying for a security audit in the end of the pipeline, we have this warm and fuzzy feeling that, yes, this thing is okay. Now, most of the things that we don't realize is that, we think about the hackers in the hood is that they are hacking our system, but usually a lot of the problems are self-inflicted. And sometimes it's not even the developers. Sometimes it's management. Sometimes management leaks data in Twitter with a lot of high-resolution stuff. That's cool. So sometimes there is absolutely nothing that the engineers can do to provide security when management kind of self-inflicts and makes a data leak. Now, of course, a lot of the things are also coming from the engineers. And now I'm going to show you like a bit of this worst case scenario for a software engineer team, right? It's when you leak your entire stuff on the internet. And this is, I'm going to show you how to hack. And you're going to use the best hacker tool called google.com. I'm not kidding you. So when you go to google.com and you search things like that, password production and file type SQL, which is a database dump. And then I'm excluding on my search github.com and .edu sites because they are educational. But you get like really nice results. And you think, oh, it's a database dump. What can it have? In this case, it had a password. So this is a real case. I did this last night. There you go. There's a username and password there. Plain text on the internet. Now you know how to hack stuff. You can easily do this. Anyone can do that. Is it legal? Is it illegal? Well, it's indexed by Google, so it's on my search results. It's publicly exposed, no password. And this happens a lot of times. Misconfigured Amazon S3 buckets or health patient data being leaked. And this is real cases that they are simply indexed by Google. And anyone that searches in Google can access them and finds them very quickly. But so what, in reality, how can we actually handle these things? Now, we need to be honest about the real expectations. And the real expectation is that the customer is not wanting 100% security, or that we, as engineers, can provide 100% security. The expectation is that from the product manager or for any kind of customer, they are hoping that the team doesn't drop the ball, and I don't want my customer data exposed in the internet and having a PR nightmare in my hands. That's their expectation. I hope that they are doing the right thing. And from a team perspective, I hope everything is covered. As an engineer, I hope that we don't get hacked because, I'm not a security expert, but I'm using the best industry best practices. And that's what we hope. Now, we can, of course, align these expectations. This is the real expectation from the customer. He will not tell you this. He will ask you 100% security. And the team will say, I hope we don't get hacked because we're not security experts. No one will say that. They will think that. And aligning these expectations is that how can you meet both worlds? How can you assure customers that you are taking security seriously? Now, security and compliance, those nice symbols, those nice badges like PCI DSS, or GDPR compliant. They are nice, but they cannot be misused, meaning that in order for you to attain certain certifications, you really need to go through a process. And the process, you might seem like, is that really worth it? Well, the thing is that even if it's not worth for your customer, you are doing industry best practices on how to handle software development in a secure way. Also, DevSecOps, which is a term that's been used quite a lot nowadays, but the practices and tooling about DevSecOps are something that a normal team without the security expertise can easily adopt in their day-to-day. And of course, the most important is also transparency and due diligence, meaning that the team is doing the best they can. They are adopting the best practices regarding DevSecOps, and the customer is willing to also get this type of GDPR compliance or PCI DSS compliance, and aligning those real expectations, making sure that they are met is the key to success. Now, of course, when we are telling a customer, as engineers, we tend to be like, we did this in a rush, we gained technical depth, now we need to fix this. But the way that you gain technical depth is also very important. You can gain technical depth without being insecure. And one of the ways that you have to validate that is that you have this DevSecOps practices and tooling in your hands. Now, when you go to talk with business about security, you don't go and say like, we need to fix this bug because this is insecure. Product managers don't want to spend money fixing bugs. They want to spend money giving value to their customers. So that's what they will ask you, like, instead of fixing this 10-year-old bug, how can you add value? I want this new feature that our customers are asking. Now, how do you sell security? By having these practices, and this is just one example, and one practice that we do quite a lot in Futurize is threat modeling as part of our projects. And by having this, I don't go to a customer and say like, you need to pay extra to have a threat modeling session. It makes no sense. To us, is our day-to-day. We do this as part of our jobs. It doesn't mean that the threat modeling is every day. A threat modeling is it's a vast topic, but a threat modeling, you can do it once a quarter. And it gives you kind of like an assurance that things are, in a way, up to date. First real outcome that you get from a threat modeling is not the findings, is not even the report. The first outcome that you have is everyone got sit around the same table, and they start drawing the architecture or the architecture of what they have done. So what you gain is documentation. That's the first thing that you get from a threat modeling session. Your documentation gets up to date magically. You can take a photo from the whiteboard and you have a real example of how your system is looking today. The other thing that you get is that because you have everyone, all the development team around the same table doing a threat modeling session, what you gain is you gain actually faster feature delivery. And the reason is that a threat modeling session focuses a lot in what an attacker can do or could do to your system. And without going into details, what this makes is that it brings this kind of alignment within the team. Because if every person is thinking in a structured way how someone is using correctly or incorrectly their system, they are taking the customer hat. So they are thinking actually how someone is using the stuff that I'm producing. So they are thinking about what are the pains, what are the consequences of what they are delivering. And in the long run, this actually brings a lot of cost savings and reduce operational costs. Taking an example of this infamous security audit that you went in the end of the pipeline, you develop a project before you release, someone pays someone to do a security audit. Usually, if you didn't do a threat modeling or if you didn't have any kind of security practices, what they will find is the basic stuff. Well, you have this thing misconfigured. I Googled your website and I got the production password. That's a stupid example, but it could happen. Now, if you make this as part of your day-to-day, you gain a lean security audit, which is that if you already mitigated the stuff, the most obvious stuff, as part of your process, when you get to a security audit, if you decide to do it, they will not find the basic stuff that you misconfigured because you thought already about those cases. And it means in the long run, less bugs and less vulnerabilities. And it brings also higher customer engagement and satisfaction. One of the best things that I like when we do threat modeling is not just the development team is there, is that you have product managers there. You have sometimes even real customers there. So the customers get engaged as part of a security activity, imagine that. And that is really, really awesome. So you gain a bit of a better user experience understanding. And you also gain credibility. One of the things that you need to do as part of GDPR compliance when you're doing a private impacts assessment, and you can ask your lawyers that what is that, but basically it's a document that tells you that you take who can use this system and why access my data and whatnot. And one of the things that it has is that it has this kind of field that says like, please give me all the outcomes of your last threat modeling sessions. So this activity is actually part of a GDPR activity to make sure that you are doing the due diligence. So from a business perspective, then you can also gain things like compliance, like GDPR or ISO, et cetera, by doing this. And this is just one small example of how security can be built in without having an extra cost. Actually, it will reduce you the costs quite often. And that's it from my side. So the magic trick was, there is no magic trick. That's the magic trick. The magic trick is that we are humans. We need to talk with each other. And we need to align on the expectations. And I think that's understanding what's beyond I want 100% security. Understanding what is the customer really thinking is the important bit. And that's it. Thank you so much.